tad bit of background on me so that you know who I am, and then you can do the same. So I've been
Sure.
in leadership management, whatever you want to call it, for close to 30 years now.
Nice.
Mainly in either traditional retail or real estate was kind of my two main niches when I was in like kind of your normal corporate environment. But about crap, hold on, I got to do some math. About 10 to 11 years ago, I made the decision to pivot out of the corporate space and became an entrepreneur, started my own business with a partner of mine. We grew it faster than we thought. Ultimately went from zero. We started it like out of my garage. And we had 12 retail locations, 10 mobile repair vans on the entire Metroplex of Dallas Fort Worth in Texas. And
Oh, that's
we're
good.
approached by a franchisor called Shirion to buy us out. I personally didn't want to sell, but like it was kind of a dollar amount you couldn't refuse. So ultimately, we sold for 12 and a half times our EBITDA. So to my understanding, they haven't even
Wow.
broke even yet on their on their investment because COVID hit, you know, a few years later, and that industry got a little bit rampaged. So we got out at a good time. Hindsight 2020. I decided to take that and start another company, completely different industry. Went in with a couple of other partners. We went in the landscaping space, also in the Dallas Fort Worth market. Because there was more owners, there was a little bit more dollar amount money behind us. So we were able to ramp really, really quickly. We had a 5-year forecast to kind of grow it and then sell. Um, and our ultimate goal was to hit $100 million in revenue annually before we sold. We achieved that in 17 months instead of 5 years. And
Wow.
we're approached by a private equity firm. They bought us out, so substantially faster than we thought. Um, and so I ultimately said, like, I kind of learned some stuff through normal corporate landscape, what does and doesn't work, tried some stuff out myself, learned the good way and maybe some not good ways to do certain things, and grow and scale a business. So, like, how can I take this tools, these skills, this experience and pass it on to the next generation? So that's how I came to Cardone. Been with Cardone for approaching a year now, helping Carlos and several other companies do exactly that, like figure out what they want to do and how do we go really, really fast in it. So that's like the whatever
That's awesome.
90-second intro into Joe. So your turn. Tell me all about you, man.
So yeah, I'll try my best to do in the same time that you did it. So yeah, so my name is Carlos Elizei. I'm from Brazil either. So as you can see my accent, live in the U.S. for almost 10 years, married, 3 kids. Um, my background it is I've developed cars for almost 15 years of my life in Brazil. The large group Yoshp Maxim. But as soon as I came to the US, I tried to work back into the same marketing. But my wife didn't want to move to Ohio or Chicago. So, and then I decided to stay in Boston. In Boston, I started to think out of the box. And okay, if I apply the same tools that I had in the past and that worked beautifully for cars, why can't I apply the same tools, lean manufacturing, Six Sigma, um, all the operations tools for different companies, different marketings, and that worked very well. So I had a chance to work with Carlos. I don't know if you had a chance to see my resume. I worked with him in the beginning of my career here for just 8 months, but then I received a good proposal from the company, Designer's Choice, flower company. I helped them to develop a system, a semi-automatic system to cut flowers and make distribution faster. So the revenue of the company, we had a chance to bring from $30 million a year to $90 million a year. The revenue was increasingly larger in those 3 years, and the margin we kept the same or increased a little bit with the same EBITDA. The EBITDA at that point was around 12 13%. The goals is always 15%. So I never had a chance to get to that point because I received another good proposal. So basically, what's happening during my career here in the U.S., I was receiving proposals for the next levels. So I started that company as a plant manager, received another good proposal to be director, and now I'm in a company as a vice president with a good chance to be COO in a year or two. So that's my basically my career. I'm very passionate about what I'm doing, and basically during my 25 years of experience, I developed a lot of different operations. I had a chance to have between 2 or 3 direct reports to until 15 direct reports that I'm having right now. So that's a very good experience in a lot of different marketings, flowers, furnitures, and now I'm working with fans.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for giving me that clarity. Like that kind of walks me through your resume and answered a few of the questions I kind of had out the gate just looking on paper. So you mentioned already you've worked with Carlos, so you're familiar with the company, you're familiar with them, what they do. Obviously, it's been several years, right, since you've worked for them. So, there's been probably, I didn't know him that entire time. I've only known him for a short period of time of that tenure. But they've grown pretty well since you've left in terms of revenue and overall, and they've got some pretty big aspirations to grow further. But before we jump into that, I'm curious, like your current role or most recent role, whatever. It sounds like A, it's going well. B, you got an opportunity for growth still there. So why is there the interest to potentially go back to a company that you previously worked for?
Because I always have a very good relationship with Carlos. Even not working with him anymore, I turned a part of one of his customers. I always bought some material because I know they are a very honest company. He's a very good person. I know a little bit him the personal view of his family, his kids, and I know he's a very honest person. And for me, it's the most important part of this whole negotiation. And I'm being very honest with him too, because even prior to this conversation that I'm having with you here right now, we had some of them, and we have part of some of the same passion about manufacturing, about business. We have pretty much the same understanding for future. That's why I understand he's not the same size of company that I'm working right now, but I know that he has a lot of potential. He's growing very well organized, and I saw a very good opportunity there too. So that's why I see a good future. That's the difference.
All right. Well, that's a fantastic answer. Because you're absolutely correct. I think I've got many clients and I do my best to not like pick favorites or anything, right? But I really, really love Carlos and Patricia. I love them as individuals. And I also love like the model, the company that they've got, because I see some extreme opportunity as we forecast in the future. I kind of wish I would have thought of this sooner. And one of the companies I started probably would have fallen into a very similar industry because it puts a lot of the skills and passions that I have to work. So I'm a little biased maybe when it comes to Carlos and Patricia. And so maybe I'm like, I don't want to say like the brother or whatever, like I'm not a family member or anything, but I kind of feel like I am to a certain degree because they're just that warm and that genuine. So I'm glad that you know follow suit and see that same vantage point.
Yeah,
Um, now your turn. Like I've done, quite a bit of talking. I've asked a couple questions. Like, what what do you want to know from me or from my perspective, either about the company, what we're attempting to do, our long-term strategy or vision? Like, what questions can I answer for you?
so what's your vision? If Carlos make me a proposal, what kind of position? How you can view me in the future, helping him to grow the company?
Great question. And I don't think we've 100% identified or like have it set in stone. Okay, so like there might be some slight variation to this answer as we get closer and closer. Like titles are something that's very arbitrous. They're difficult to pin in. Ideally, we need someone who's going to drive the operations and production side of the business. Um, Obviously, today they have the one location there in Massachusetts, probably the same one that you were at previously. But there are plans for them to scale nationwide. So, ideally speaking, the individual we would want to bring into the organization in that role would not just be a single unit leader. Ideally, that individual could grow as we grow in terms of leadership as we open up location number two and ultimately number three. We want to kind of phase from east to west across the US. Some of this is going to be very dependent on how well we do the current location. We have to optimize it. That's kind of in our platform delivery is what we call it. That's the terminology that we use, like how we forecast out. Ideally, we want to get current operations to be what we call optimized, which is basically 70% or higher of full utilization rate. So it hypothetically, if that warehouse facility was fully baked, like every piece of equipment we could possibly own was inside of it. It was fully operational. We were running 24-hour shifts, or likely three shifts that would be running continuously 24 hours. Like, what could we potentially do in revenue? Like, if we were at 100%, and then we want to hit 70% of that number before we really jump into location number two, because there's a lot of reasons and a lot of data behind that number. But ultimately, that means there's free cash flow in that unit that helps to absorb some of the operational costs, especially in this industry that's so dollar amount heavy on the equipment. That equipment is not cheap. So to go open a second location, you need some dollars to buy them. First and foremost, you got to buy the facility, you got to buy the real estate, you got to get people. If you're in a different location, you're going to have a lot higher. There's a lot of cost really in this particular one before we look at number two. And then we want to kind of repeat and replicate in location number two, get it up to 70% and then move into location number three. We're kind of targeting somewhere in central US, probably Texas, just because of taxes and things of that nature. It's a little bit easier for that to occur, and it's a pretty decent centralized hub that can cover a pretty large geographical area from a shipping perspective and allow us to be really kind of that days, not weeks mentality tagline that we have, and help to get product to customers very quickly. And then ultimately, third location, which is probably somewhere in the 7 to 10 year vision, depending on how sites 1 and 2 go, would likely be in California, because then we're all the way on the opposite end of the country in the West Coast, right? But that's a long-term vision. There's an awful lot to do between now and then. I'm one of those that like to kind of put it on paper, map it out. What's like a 10-year goal, 10-year vision, back it up slowly but surely. What should we be doing year 9 to make us ready year 10, and all the way back to current year, right? So current year is, we have got to get to a place in which the shift we are running today increases significantly from its utilization rate. It's averaging around 32, 33% utilization today in the one shift that they're running. We need that number to at least double, if not more. We need to add likely at least one additional shift, in my opinion, so that we have some overlap and we're able to, fulfill more orders faster. So that's like the next, 12 to 18 months is to improve the current shift, add a second shift. That involves hiring people, training people, an awful lot of lead flow that has to occur so we get the orders and people aren't just standing around. There's a lot that goes into accomplishing those numbers, but that's what we want to do short term, and that's what we want to do long term. Does that answer your question totality?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sure. Yeah, that's aligned perfectly what the experience that I had in the past. So in the flower company, I took care of 3 different locations, 4 different locations, to be honestly. One was in Massachusetts. The second one was in California. The third one, Pennsylvania, and the last one was in Florida. So I had
Awesome.
a experience in a couple of different states. So that was good, a good time.
Great. 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 What
I
do you think?
I have
My
one.
turn. Let's go. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You said you had another one. Go ahead.
Go ahead, you first. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, you're perfectly fine. This is like, dialogue is where this is not an interview. Like I don't work for ACP, so I can give advice, right? But like we're just having a conversation. Is the way I look at it.
All
Um,
right.
if you were to come in knowing what you know Lean Six Sigma, you know Lean manufacturing, you have a lot of experience. From what you know about the company and the experience that you've had since, what would you look to do your first 30, 60, 90 days?
So the first thing that I would like to see it is what kind of SOPs they have in place, because that's going to be major point to training new people and create new shifts, and try to understand what kind of KPIs they are looking for in the future. So based on this information, based on the data, you can start to make decisions. And the third part, the third part that I always think it is a three path or a situation. Like, and the last one that I take all the time is no less important than another two. It is management, because if you have good tools, if you have good KPIs, you have good SOPs, but if you don't have management that enforcing people to follow those instructions, it doesn't work. So that's what I think could be pretty much the first 30, 60, 90 days to check it out, what's happening in a company.
I love that, and that is like almost literally picture perfect to what we're attempting to accomplish today. So we have a handful of SOPs or processes that we have documented. We have a bunch more that we need to do. So certainly we could need help with that. KPIs and metrics. We have the organizational, like top level, nailed down. We got those figured out. We are now breaking those down into like individual departments. So everything from marketing to sales to production to post-production, kind of customer service, customer nurturing, and then the accounting piece. Like, are we collecting money and saving money for, future growth and things of that nature? So we're breaking them down into each of those departments. We're hoping to have that done here in the next, week or two. Fingers crossed. I know there's a holiday in there that might make a delay, but fingers crossed, next couple of weeks we have those locked down. And then we're going to move into individual level. So depending on what department an individual falls into, that individual should have specific metrics that they are responsible for doing that ultimately help the department achieve theirs, that ultimately helps the company achieve theirs, right? So it's kind of like a stair step approach. So those two things are absolutely like for sure top priorities for us. And then I love the fact that you talked about kind of leadership management of the team, because that is also something we're attempting to do. We have something called an employee maturity model. I doubt that's a term you've heard before. Maybe you have, but I doubt it because it's a Cardone only thing. But basically, it's looking at every individual and understanding what their wants, desires, passions, aspirations are. And we put that into what we call a PPF, and that stands for personal, professional, and financial. So just like you and I and every other human being that goes to work every day, like there's things you're attempting to accomplish, and they're going to fall into one of those buckets. It's either going to be a personal goal, you're trying to do something to help yourself improve. It's professional, you want to do something to, improve your career in some way, shape, or form. And then financial, like it or not, money makes the world go round. We all got bills to pay. We all got stuff we would like to buy if there was extra money in the bank account. Like understanding every individual's goals within those three categories helps us to align them with the goals of the company. That's the way we look at it. So if, for example, if you came to work for the company, right, you're going to have personal, professional, and financial goals. And if we help you achieve those, you help us achieve ours, right? Like that's a goal alignment. And in doing so, we kind of model out what does a trajectory look like if you achieve all those goals, not just in those things, but how you grow with the company as you grow, right? So that involves promotional opportunities, relocations potentially as we open up new sites. We get to site number 2 and ultimately number 3. We're a nationwide organization, probably shipping internationally substantially more than we do today. There's a lot of growth opportunities in all of that for everyone, and understanding what each individual person's like wants are within that allows us to resource plan. We know we have somebody that would be interested in moving to California. Like we keep that in the back of our mind and we help them grow so that when the time comes where we're ready to open up California, not only do we have somebody locked and ready to go, but we've grown them that entire time period so that they're ready to be successful on whatever that next role is. So we're looking to kind of finesse and create that and then ultimately implement that. So it would be biweekly conversations with an employee and their manager, talking about those goals. How are they going? What can we do to support? How do we help them achieve them faster than they were going to do on their own? And then have utilize that opportunity to have a conversation with what their individual metrics are. How are they performing in their job? So that allows
It's
us to
awesome.
have those consistent, coaching opportunities, right? So really the 3 things you said are the exact 3 things we are going after. So I love that there's some overlap there and there's some shared vision there. That's fantastic.
Excellent.
All right,
It's a pretty
your
much
turn.
the
Your turn. I asked a question. It's now your turn. You ask one.
same. Okay, one by one.
Yep.
Joe, so uh, as you can see, I'm not young. I'm 43, getting 43 in January, and I'm looking for stability. Um, so I'm looking for a place that I can stay there for a long period of time and retire. So and the place that I feel comfortable, that I can have a good life balance. I know a couple of times you need to work additional hours. It's normal life. I don't have the illusion to have like, okay, I'm gonna work 2, 3, 4 hours in a day and I'm gonna go home and then I don't have. I'm not a kid. I'm a grown man. Uh, but what I mean with this is this part of the conversation. It is I've seen a lot of small companies as soon as they growing a little bit and they start to get some uh, better revenue and better uh, uh, a better scenario in the market. I know a lot of more attention on those companies. Do you have a view in the future that Carlos or Patricia or they have a chance to sell the company for a large one, and then basically that starts from the beginning again? Because I know a lot of those private equity companies, a couple of them they are very aggressive, a couple of them they are just playing different models. So what's your view for the future in terms of selling of the company?
My understanding and perspective on that is, will there be an opportunity for them to sell? Truthfully, probably. Will they take it is a different answer, right? I don't personally, and I'm not Carlos and I'm not Patricia, so I can't like 100% say this with 100% certainty. I can only say my belief of what they would do. I personally
Okay.
believe they want to see this through, and the things that we have talked about of a 10-year vision, a 10-year roadmap of what we want to accomplish, they want to see all those things through. Um, that doesn't mean that like there was a company I had once that I didn't want to sell and somebody threw stupid money at me and I was like, well, I kind of can't say no. Right. So that doesn't mean like something won't happen. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I just, we believe in transparency and honesty and openness and everything. So my short answer to that question is I doubt it. I think they're going to be in this for the long haul. Right. But I can't say that with 100% certainty either. Um, and then the other piece of that is you mentioned something that is very true. And that is as smaller companies grow, there's almost always not only the opportunity to sell, but there's also a lot of growing pains. Like you get bigger, you realize there's bigger problems. We call those breakpoints. So we actually have that broken down into when you're between this revenue and this revenue, these are probably the list of problems you're going to have. As you get to this level of revenue, you're going to have a different set of problems. And so understanding what those are, we can do our best to navigate when those before we get there so that we're prepared. And that's kind of ultimately, truthfully, what we're trying to do with this role. Um, they are not necessarily today at a revenue level that they need like a director of operations. Like they're kind of not there yet. They're close, but they're not all the way there. We are looking, forecasting and planning for what is to come when we get a little bigger. And we want someone that's going to help us navigate those things. So that's why we're being proactive. Like this is kind of proving the concept that we're doing our best to be proactive and prevent those problems. And by preventing problems, I can say this from a business owner perspective, if you can understand what problems are coming and be prepared for them, it's a lot less stressful. And most people sell a business because it's too stressful. So if we can minimize, you're never going to eliminate, but if we can minimize stress, that reduces the opportunity for someone to want to just get out because it's too much for them to handle. Oh my God, this is crazy. I got 80% turnover. I got to train new people every 8 weeks. Like none of that's happening, but hypothetically, like that would drive Carlos nuts. You know, like he'd be training somebody all the time. He would, if he had an offer, he would be more apt to accept it than if things were just flowing smoothly. Then he'd be like, why don't I want to sell? Like everything's going great, right? So we also have to keep the company in a good position as well, so that we do hit those targets. We keep the stress level as low as possible, and ultimately we allow Carlos and Patricia to exit when they want to, not when they have to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I had a chance to participate in this 10 years here in a lot of different inflection points for different companies. So they target exactly as you just said. They hit a certain number, and then we start to see a couple of different necessities that we had in the past. Like, okay, we never had a CFO. Maybe now it's a time to have one very dedicated full-time or maybe part-time CFO to help us and bring the financial team together and keep things more organized and give us a better vision what we could do differently what we're doing right now, because it's not working. So it's nice. It's good to hear that from you. So and it's important to keep them in a good shape to make sure they can navigate for those inflection points in a peaceful way.
100% agree. I don't want to like, keep you, we could talk forever because this stuff gets me jazzed. I'm an ops guy by nature. That's why I started my own business multiple times is I could talk all night long, but I know you're 2 hours ahead of me. So it's been a long day for you already. I want to make sure though that I've answered any and every question you may have. Again, I don't look at this as an interview. I look at this like as a conversation. I just wanted to get to know you. Like Carlos knew you already, Patricia knew you already. Like they had that all up on me. They knew you and I didn't, and I wanted to like close that gap so that as we talk about it, I understand their perspective on it. So, but yeah, you're in the same boat. You didn't know me before this conversation very much, if any at all. So, is there anything you want to know about me personally, or more importantly, is there anything more you want to know about the role or the company?
Uh, no, I basically, based on the conversations that I already had with Carlos, I pretty much know what he's looking for. It was important to me to understand if the way that he's looking for the future is matching what the way you're looking for the future, and it looks like you guys are pretty much on the same page. And that was good to hear from you. That is, as I said, matching what he said. And yeah, I'm open. I'm open to help him. I'm open to help the company. If it is opportunity in the future, like So I'm not a lying. I won't lie to you, and the same way that I didn't lie to Carlos. So I have a comfortable life with my family. I have my extensive hours for the company. I won't lie. We're gonna be very honest with you. I don't expect it to match in payment because I know it's a little bit too high for Carlos. But exactly as I told him, if you make me a good proposal, if you show me where we are right now and what we could be in the future, I can see the roadmap. That means a lot for me, and just to keep me in good shape with my family, I can pay my bills, I can have like a decent life here, and yes, I'm open to help you guys.
Awesome. Awesome. If everything worked out, the stars perfectly aligned, everything was great, like how fast, for lack of a better term, would you be open to making that transition from the current company to this one?
Uh, that's a very good question because the owner of the company that I'm working right now, he bought a new place, and I'm helping him making the drawings and creating the workflow from the beginning to the end in a new facility. I'm getting close to the end. We already have office. We have the whole facility outside of the facility developed. But now I'm working on the machinery, on how to put everything together to create a workflow that makes sense for his facility. Uh, and also, I'm finishing one project for him in terms of development of managers. So if I guess, I can tell you between a month and a half. It could be. And thinking about beginning of December, December usually is not a busy month because especially this year we have Christmas and New Year's in the middle of the week. So uh, let's say middle of January could be a good
Okay.
time for me.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much aligns with what we were talking about in terms of your resource planning, the dollars, because this is a role that we don't have today, right? So it's an upgrade in terms of people, and there's a cost that comes with that, right? So we plan that out. We try to be proactive as much as we can, and that pretty well closely aligns with when we were anticipating this. So I think we're timing wise, sounds like we're pretty well locked in step there. Anything else I can answer for you?
No, I think that was a very good conversation from my perspective. And feel free if you still have any additional questions that you want to ask me. So I have no problems. I still have time. I know that's 8:03 for me here. What time is it? It is for you there. It is
It's 6:03, so I'm 2 hours behind you.
okay.
Yeah.
If you
No,
don't have any,
like, yeah, I don't personally have any this go around. I do want to let you know, like, if we follow the map or what we've mapped out in terms of like an interview plan, which being that Carlos and Patricia already know you, some of these steps may be able to be skipped. But traditionally, there is kind of a three-step process in terms of interviews. One's a fairly shortish interview, just understanding and making sure alignment, which I think this conversation kind of checks that box. Generally, the second one is what we call a cultural interview. Again, that one's one that potentially could be skipped or combined, shortened, whatever, because you already know Patricia and Carlos, but it's making sure like culturally you fit within the organization and the type of person that we're looking to find. So that one might be able to skip or fast forward. And then the final one is like a case study is the easiest way to put it. So we give you a close to real world scenario. This is the problem. This is what's going on. As much background information that we can give to you on it, give you some time to review it, look it over, make a decision on if you were in that situation and you were the leader, what would you do? Why would you do it? What resources would you need? People would you need? Time would you need? What's the outcome you're looking for? And you kind of present that to us. So that's the only one that I think might like have to be done for lack of a better term. The other ones might be able to be skipped. I'll leave that up to Carlos and Patricia to make a decision on if they want to do the whole thing or if they want to fast forward a little bit. I'll let them decide. But traditionally, that's what we do to make sure if we're going to bring someone in, we're bringing in the right person because we don't want to be hiring a director of operations twice. You know what I mean? We want to do this once, and we want to do it right. So I'll let them decide what that trajectory looks like, but I wanted to give you some insight of what normally that means.
That's okay. I appreciate your honesty.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna call because I think Carlos is literally waiting on me to call him. Knowing him, he's probably staring at the phone right now. So I'm gonna reach out to him and let him know that we chatted. That it seems like we're very closely aligned in terms of goals, aspirations, long-term vision, what you would look to do short-term versus the long-term, how you would fit, timing of when potentially that move could be made from current place to this place, and I'll then put the ball in his court in terms of what does he want to do from there. You have my an email, obviously, because you sent me the resume. When I reply back to you, it's got my cell phone number in the little signature line. Please feel free to call, text, what email, whatever. If you have any questions that they pop in your brain that you'd like to know or anything, I'll be happy to answer them as best of my ability. Whether or not I'll be involved in any of the other interview processes or steps, that's up to Carlos. I generally will ask, but it's up to them if they like. I'm technically a consultant. I don't work for them. I work for them, but not for the company. It's a weird thing. So they knowing them, they'll probably have me on. Some other clients like to do it all by themselves. So it's up to them ultimately. But if you do come on, which I hope that occurs, right? Um, you would be over operations, and I'm literally the operations guy. So we probably would get the opportunity to work very closely together as you onboard, as you transition, as you begin leadership. You and I would likely get to know each other very, very well, and I think we would get along. So that makes me feel really good.
Perfect. Sounds good to me. And thank you. Thank you for offering me your personal contact. And yes, for sure. If I have any questions, I'll let you know.
Sounds like a plan. Well, Carlos, this has been fantastic. I love this. I'm like super excited. I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to sleep tonight. Because I love talking about this stuff. So thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your excitement, your interest, all of those things. I will have Carlos, the other Carlos, reach out to you and let you know kind of where we go from here.
Sure. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your comments. And have a wonderful night.
You too, bud. Have a good one. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.